Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, or Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the Akim who are tuning into these videos. Alright, so the topic of this video is going to be about, the plagues, pestilences, and the martial law that's going to happen. I got a few articles, and I'm not going to read this article, but it had a clickbait, title to it. It says the United States declares public health emergency over coronavirus. So this coronavirus situation, this plague, this pestilence, it's got the U.S., the United States of America, which is known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, it's got their attention to declare a health emergency because of it. And so with these health, emergencies, this pestilence of the coronavirus, ultimately, this coronavirus is a prelude, because there's going to be more and more pestilences and plagues that are going to hit America. These are the birth pangs of the end of America's, rulership of the world. All right, so but with these plagues and pestilences, it's going to usher in, the martial law, and the precepts, in Second Esdras, where it talks about that a man is not going to be able to go into a city. It's because there's going to be quarantines. There's going to be people rioting within and outside of the quarantines for food and, substances, medicines, that they're not going to be able to get, because a lot of people are going to die because of these plagues and pestilences. All right, so I'm going to play, this video clip of this situation that happened. And, it says a taxi driver kicks out Wuhan passenger amid corona panic in China. See, he was coughing. You can see how Moab over here, he immediately looked to his right. He coughs and he immediately, turns his head, because he's scared. He's scared of these plagues and pestilences, because he knows that people are dying because of them. He's saying he's from a different province. He's got the sniffles. You can see he's starting to buckle under the pressure of lying. This guy over here is buckling under the pressure because of the pestilences. He wasn't playing around. He's like he shows. He kicked him out. So he wasn't able to go to the hospital. Because with these people with these pestilences, that's why it says in the scriptures that a man's not going to be able to go into the cities, because they have a contagious disease. So people aren't going to hitchhike to spots. They're going to be quarantined. All right, so I'm gonna read parts of this article. This is says the CDC issues mandatory quarantine for the first time in more than 50 years to Wuhan passengers in California. So since 50 years, the United States of America hasn't done a mandatory quarantine order. And it was because of the smallpox, I believe. But now, 50 years later, you got the coronavirus, making its moves. Ultimately, the Heavenly Father is making his moves, plaguing this place. So it's forcing the elite's hand to do this quarantine, pretty much initiate the prophecies of martial law. All right, so it says the United States health officials have quarantined 195 Americans evacuated from Wuhan, China, taking the rare step of issuing a mandatory order for the first time in more than 50 years to help contain an outbreak for a new coronavirus that spread to roughly 10,000 people across the globe. So it's some serious stuff. It says Trump administration officials later said they were issuing mandatory quarantines for any U.S. citizen who have visited the Hubei province where Wuhan is located in the last 14 days. Travel restrictions were also being issued for anyone who visited elsewhere in mainland China over the previous 2 weeks. The administration plans to deny entry to foreign nationals who pose a risk of transmitting. So there you go. That's biblical prophecy speaking. I'm going to read this part of the article again. It says the administration plans to deny entry to foreign nationals who pose a risk of transmitting the virus into the United States. So I'm going to go ahead, just jump into the precept because I want to read what I got highlighted here. But it says in 2nd Esdras 15 verse 17, it says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And so that's happening, this as at this moment. All right, so continue on the article. It says, the virus in the United States administration officials said at a news conference a few hours after the CDC's call. I'm just jumping through the article. It says the last time U.S. health officials issued mandatory quarantine was in the 1960s during a smallpox outbreak, they said. And it says, we are prepared as if this were the next pandemic. And how the apostles were saying that the word pandemic means all. So the people who are being quoted in this are pretty much government officials, who have the power to initiate martial law. So and they're saying right here, it says they're preparing as if this were the next pandemic, the next disease that's going to infect everybody, because that's what the word pandemic means. It means all. And it says, but we are hopeful still that this is not and will not be the case. She said, adding that the tests for the virus aren't foolproof. This is very serious public health situation, and CDC and highlighted this in pink, says, and federal governments has and will continue to take aggressive action to protect the public. And so pretty much a visual of how that aggressive action is martial law. Closing up the streets, closing up entry points, like transit. There's going to be checkpoints. Pretty much, you're not going to be able to go cross country in that time. And jumping down the article, it says, this is one of those tools in our toolboxes to mitigate the potential impact of this novel virus on the United States, she said. We are preparing as if this were the next pandemic, but we are hopeful still that this is not and will not be the case. So maybe the coronavirus will be quarantined and alleviated, but ultimately this is just a prelude to the Messiah's return, because that's what he was saying, that's these times of when his return is nigh at hand, is that there's going to be plagues, pestilences, wars, and rumors of war, and earthquakes in diverse places. So you're seeing prophecy manifest, and and Yahweh Shai's return, it's nigh at hand. And it says that in the article, it says this is one of our tools in our toolboxes. And so they have a plethora of tools to do these things, to initiate martial law. They got the FEMA camps, they got the plastic coffins ready, they got all these things ready so that they can pretty much fulfill prophecy. The prophecy is Jacob's trouble. The martial law that's going to happen. Because they have those tools in the toolbox, as I read in this article. Those tools now, like in RX, I forgot what it's called, like Rex 84. Pretty much when they initiate martial law, like any transport of vehicles, like horses, buggies, cars, tanks, trucks, anything like that with a license plate that you had to go to the DMV to get, it belongs to the government. So you literally will be not able to go to another city, because during martial law, the government, the cops, the National Guard are going to confiscate everybody's cars. All right, and so this article came out today, January 31st, 2020, year of prophecy. It's the reason why they're issuing these emergencies, and these mandatory quarantines. It's because over here in the Bay Area, it says coronavirus. Bay Area's first case confirmed in Santa Clara County, CDC says. And that's not that far from San Francisco. So, if a person walks into San Francisco with that coronavirus, and they probably don't even know they're infected with it, because it takes a while for the symptoms to kick in. It's pretty much a powder keg waiting to blow up. And I'm not gonna read this article because you pretty much get the gist of what this article is speaking about. But it says in San Jose, California, KGO, the Bay Area's first case of the coronavirus from China has been confirmed in Santa Clara County, officials say. I'm gonna go ahead and read these precepts, and I'm also gonna play this clip from a video game. And it pretty much a showcase the elites. It's a video game. But it says, people say that life imitates art, or it's like the other way. It's the other way around. It's art imitates life. So I'm gonna go ahead and read these precepts, and then I'll play that clip. All right. So this is 2 Esdras 15. I'm gonna go ahead and start at the top. It says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy." And these are the words of prophecy about these plagues and pestilences and Jacob's trouble. All right. So it says, continue on. It says, "Which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them that trouble thee that speaketh against thee, for all their unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness." And in my last video, I read Psalms 91. Pretty much is the only thing that's going to save you out of this coming destruction, whether it be a plague, pestilence, a war, sedition among men, you name it. The only thing that's going to protect you is the grace of the Heavenly Father. You literally have to get in good graces with the Heavenly Father in order for you to come out of this, so-called unscathed, so you can be delivered in the last days. All right, so continuing on, verse 5, it says, "Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction." And verse 6 says, "For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled." So the Heavenly Father is not making a mistake when this coronavirus is out and about doing its thing. It's doing its thing because of the hurtful works that are done in the earth. Pretty much it's to paint the picture, so that when Yahweh Shai returns, he comes down here so that he can save his elect and kill the wicked of the nations. All right, so I'm gonna jump to these other precepts. In verse 11 it says, "But I will bring them with a mighty hand, and stretch out an arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof." So when the scriptures say that, it says that pretty much the Heavenly Father and Yahweh Shai are gonna smite Egypt with plagues before. It's, you gotta believe that to the 100%. I got this link right here about those plagues. One of those plagues was the lice. So ultimately, you're going to see that plague, come in into the forefront again. The swarms of flies. So all these plagues and pestilences, the deaths of cattle and livestock. You're gonna see them again. Ashes turn to boils and sores. And man, I could tell you, man, I've seen people with boils and sores. It looks gnarly. Like if you're homeless in San Francisco for one day, you got these red sores on your hands. It's disgusting. But these plagues are here. The Black Plague is already here in California. So we're just waiting for coronavirus to actually start dropping people. All right, so jumping down to verse 14, it says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings or princes, and their courses of their actions shall stand in their power." So as of right now, you still got riots all around the world. But once you start adding tension to those parties of rioters, they're going to start fighting for blood, fighting for food, fighting for survival. So verse 17 it says, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." So even if, like, let's say you're walking down Paris, it's not per se quarantined or barricaded martial law. You can't walk in there. You wouldn't want to walk into the places where these riots are happening. You might catch a bullet, that's being shot through the rioting. because there's just going to be so much hell out there that, you literally, have to, trust in the Heavenly Father that He's guiding your steps so that you don't go into a city where there's, mass rioting, or into a city that's got pestilences. All right, so continue on. It says, verse 18, it says, "For because of their pride the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their house with the sword and spoil their goods, because the lack of bread and for great tribulation." So pretty soon, the food shortages are going to happen. They're already happening in Africa, and you just best believe it's going to happen over here in America. All right, so this is Jeremiah 30 verse 7. It says, "Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." And that he that that they're talking about here in this precept is the elect, because those are the only people that are going to be, as the phrase goes, unscathed out of this coming destruction that's about to hit this place. Pretty much it's going to be shit hits the fan situation. Alright, so this is Jeremiah 25 verse 30, and it says, "Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them, The Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai shall roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout, as they that tread the grapes, against all the inhabitants of the earth." So that, when it says all the inhabitants, so there's going to be, every city is going to be in distress. There's not going to be one oasis where people can go to. There's going to be, little oases for the men of the Lord, but, ultimately there ain't going to be no safe haven for anybody, pretty much. Alright, so verse 31 says, "A noise shall come even to the ends of the earth, for the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai hath a controversy with the nations. He shall plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai of hosts, Behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. And the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth." So this is pretty much twofold, because it's talking about those thermonuclear missiles, but then also the deaths that are going to happen and accumulate along the way. So when you're out there, walking down Jacob's trouble, when it's martial law and everything like that, there's going to be a lot of dead bodies. It says the scriptures right here, and it says, "They shall not be lamented, neither gathered, nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground." So it's depicting that picture that there's going to be so much dead bodies that people are going to be desensitized of it. Like, they're going to be used to seeing dead people. So there's just going to be just like dung on the ground. And years ago, if there was poop on the ground, the whole street, the whole block would know that there's poop on the ground, and no one would step on it. But nowadays there's so much poop on the ground that people are desensitized of it, that it's a weird day if you don't see poop on the ground. All right, so this is Isaiah 29 and 6. It says, "Thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai of hosts, with thunder and with earthquakes and great noises, with storms and tempests and the flame of devouring fire." So like I was saying, this coronavirus is really just a prelude to Yahweh Shai's return. Because Yahweh Shai is going to return with a bang. He's going to come down with earthquakes, great noises, tempests, and the flames of devouring fire. Those big thermonuclear missiles at the very end. I want to read just verse 3 of Psalms 91. Psalms 91 and 3 says, "Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilences." And you could definitely read the whole of Psalms 91 by yourself, because it's pretty much talking about, what's the ticket out of this? How is one person going to be unscathed out of these pestilences, out of these martial laws and earthquakes and thermonuclear warfare? Ultimately, you have to have been chosen, the elect, but the elect of the nation of Israel are going to be doing these things, praying to the Heavenly Father and, walking in wisdom. Alright, so I wanted to play this clip from this video game. It's called Deus Ex. It came out a long time ago. But the intro, like of the game, like it speaks about like these guys are talking like they're elites, and they're pretty much trying to do world domination. And part of the world domination is they were starting to release these plagues out in the cities, and it started causing mass riots that they had to initiate martial law. You could definitely play the game yourself, waste time, because the game's really good. I recommend it. It's a little old, but if you want to get some further understanding from this game, because this game has got a lot of biblical information, because the game's ultimately about the end times and how it's supposedly going to look like. It's just a video game, but I'm going to go ahead and play this clip.
Your appointment to FEMA should be finalized within the week. I've already discussed the matter with the senator.
I take it he was agreeable?
He didn't really have a choice.
Has he been infected?
Oh yes, most certainly. When I mentioned that we could put him on the priority list for the ambrosia vaccine, he was so willing it was almost pathetic.
This plague, the rioting is intensifying to the point where we may not be able to contain it.
Why contain it? Let it spill over into the schools and churches. Let the bodies pile up in the streets. In the end, they'll beg us to save them.
I've received reports of armed attacks on shipments. There's not enough vaccine to go around, and the underclasses are starting to get desperate.
Of course they're desperate. They can smell their death, and the sound they'll make rattling their cage will serve.
And so all these, dead bodies from the plague in the video game, just as the scriptures were saying,
is a warning to the rest.
I hope you're not underestimating the problem. The others may not go as quietly as you think. Until it...
and in this scene too, I'm gonna speak a little bit about the game, is that it's taking place in Paris. So all these people are rioting against the troops in Paris.
Evidence indicates they're behind the problems in Paris.
A bunch of pretentious old men playing at running the world. But the world left them behind long ago. We are the future.
Alright, so that's the end of this video. I think, like I said, I recommend playing the game. It's pretty cool. As a side note. But ultimately, like these plagues are going to initiate prophecy with these quarantines, because they're going to start locking down cities because of it. So I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Wadash, and Shalom Akim.